How's it going, guys? And welcome to the showdown between the Vampire Counts led by the Red Duke and the Lizard People, who are going to be led by Croc R. So guys, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So in the front line, I do have a very heavy core of fodder units. In total, I do have 3 groups of zombies, and then I do also have a couple of groups of skeleton warriors on the outsides of my army. So I really like the zombies for a multitude of reasons. Number one, they're very good at kind of bogging up Saurus warriors, and I mean, they have a ton of HP, 120 models. Obviously, they don't have the best stats with a 5 melee attack and 6 melee defense, but again, they kind of just sit there and absorb the initial shock damage of Saurus warriors, and they can really muck them up for quite some time. Then that's going to allow your other units, like you see I have a bunch of Black Knights and Varix Reavers and some Terror guys, to really shine. On top of that, if your opponent is playing a very skink-heavy army, the zombies are very, very solid because skinks, they don't hit terribly hard. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these skink cohorts. So they have, let's see, only 20 melee attack, 24 melee defense, and 25 weapon strength. And they also, you of course, have the javelins here with these skink cohorts. So the zombies are a very good candidate for just kind of mucking them up and wasting that javelin ammunition. I definitely like them quite a bit for that purpose. On top of that, the skeleton warriors, I like to put them on the periphery of my army, so you can see my general formation. It's a little bit bunched because of this valley right here, but you can put the skeleton warriors like up and on the outside, and if they come around the flank, and you can see my opponent over here, does actually have 4 groups of chameleon skinks. So for example, if you can get one group of skeleton warriors to just kind of screen these guys out, you can get a ton of value and waste a ton of their ammunition, which is very, very strong in my opinion. On top of that, I do have some mobile units. So I do have a couple of groups of Black Knights, which I actually really like quite a bit against the Lizard People. They don't have the best armor piercing values, but against the Lizardmen, for example, you can cycle charge Saurus Warriors, who only have 60 armor, and they're very, very effective at running down skink cohorts, as well as the chameleon skinks. And honestly, if you lose them, they're very cheap. I think like regular Black Knights, these ones do have a couple chevrons, but I think the base cost of Black Knights is like it's not 600. I think it's 700 off the top of my head. Varix Reavers are a little bit more expensive. The Black Knights with lances and barding, but they're very powerful. These guys have a 29 melee attack, 34 melee defense, but they regenerate, they're durable, and I don't think they actually have a true bonus versus infantry. I think it just says it in the tooltip, but let's go ahead and check just to be sure. Yeah, they don't, but I really like Varix Reavers. They're probably one of my favorite regiments of renown, and very, very good for skink hunting and cycle charging Saurus warriors. So for my anti-large options, I do have the Red Duke, and I think he's probably the most competitive pick in this matchup. Elsif is going to give you the tools you really need to get through Croc R, because Croc R is incredibly tough to kill. Elsif is going to lower his physical resist by 22% and lower his melee defense by 45, which is going to put his melee defense to 0. So if you can really time that and have the Terrorgeist and and the Red Duke hitting him, while Elsif is active, you're going to get a ton of value. Because you really need to take down Croc R. He's definitely kind of the staple of most Lizardmen armies that are obviously built around him. So for the rest of my army, I do have 2 groups of the Grave Guards, just standard. You don't really need the great weapons because they're going to be fighting Saurus Warriors, and having the silver shields is very valuable. A lot of times these matchups will come down to, getting kited by chameleons or just getting poked by skink cohorts with javelins. So having the silver shields and the true bonus versus infantry on these guys is very, very nice. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform. On top of that, I do have a Banshee, and the Banshee is just kind of a decent inclusion. She does have good armor piercing values. The magic damage, I guess, is circumstantially okay because sometimes Croc R can pop. Let's go ahead and check here real quick. 1 second. Let me find it. 1 moment, please, guys. He can pop the Sacred Spawning of Zodal, which is going to give him physical resist. I mean, it's very niche, and I guess it's probably not even worth pointing out, but still, it's a nice little kind of bonus here. She's very tough to kill. Fear and Terror, she can terror out skinks, and Saurus Warriors aren't immune to psychology either, so she can be pretty useful. And honestly, if you just stick around like a Bastiladon or any other unit like that, she can eventually wear them down, so I like that choice quite a bit. That's pretty much it for my army. Just some, Grave Guard, skeletons, zombies, a couple groups of Black Knights just to chase skinks. And there is kind of a theory that you can just go double Terrorgeist, but I've been playing a lot of people who love to use chameleon skinks, and they're very good at just kiting Terrorgeist and the Red Duke, and I felt like I wanted to have a little bit more of a diverse army and get a couple of groups of Black Knights and things like that. And then, of course, one group of Crypt Ghouls. This is the one unit I think I maybe should have brought more of. They trade pretty efficiently with skink cohorts and units like that, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they do. So for my opponent, he has a very skink-heavy army. He does have actually, I think, 6 groups of these skink cohorts with javelins, 4 chameleon skinks, so man, that is just some heavy firepower. Definitely can, even with the Red Duke having 70 armor and being somewhat durable, he would be able to focus me down with these 4 skinks very, very easily. On top of that, he does have 3 groups of Saurus Warriors, 2 groups of, not groups, but 2 Feral Bastiladons here, which have pretty good AP values. Honestly, if you could just send them into, Grave Guard and things like that, they can perform pretty well. And I think for his Lord, he does have Croc R and Lore of Heaven, so he just has Wind Blast, no other ability, so no Harmonic Convergence or Curse of the Midnight Wind, but Wind Blast is a devastating ability. When you overcast it, it can pretty much wreck anything. The Sternsmen, skeletons, zombies, it'll take care of all of those units for you. So guys, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So initially, I decided to push up and around with these Black Knights. He did have 4 groups of skinks. I was aware of their presence because I saw them initially with the Red Duke flying over there. I do also get a decent little breath attack right here on the Saurus Warriors, and you can see my opponent actually does have silver chevrons on all these. So I noticed he was setting up a bit of a concave right here, looking to collapse with a bunch of these skink cohorts and, trying to pull back right now. I don't think he liked the initial positioning. So what I did is I just get my Black Knights, my Varix Reavers. I'm like, all right, let's ride him down, see how much damage we can do. In the meantime, he's able to get a nice little ambush on the Red Duke. Doesn't do the most damage, probably still like 2, 3, 400 damage there, which isn't bad. So I do grab my Tithe, which is the Regiment of Renown of the Zombies, the doom of all mortals. So the Tithe is going to be marching forward to, try and muck these guys up. And I do, fly my Terrorgeist a little bit. I overextended it. I was just trying to see what he had, see if there was any more hidden units and things like that. And I do try and threaten his Skink Priest right here, but of course it's much faster with, let's see what the speed is. Oh, it's actually poisoned by its own skinks. In the meantime, I'm getting my Black Knights around the back. I'm just trying to occupy his forces. And the entire time he's going to be sending Krokar to deal with those. I'm totally fine with that. So, in the front, the skeletons are going to be colliding with the Saurus Warriors, the Bastiladon here. We'll just call him George for the sake of this game. I feel like it doesn't really make sense naming them unless they have like some revivification crystal or the laser. But man, look how angry he looks. He's coming to preach Sotek. So the Graveguard in the front are going to be colliding with the Saurus. I do also have the Banshee here to provide fear and terror. And the Red Duke is going to summon some zombies behind them. In the meantime, we did get a really good charge to my Black Knights. Obviously, you just look how many Javelins are in these guys. They get a great charge into these skink cohorts right here, but this is the real juicy one. This Varix Reavers just massacred these skink cohorts on the charge, did a ton of damage, and then the Crypt Ghouls are going to follow up, and Crypt Ghouls are the masters of munching, low-tier infantry like this. So they're probably going to rack up a ton of kills, but you can see my opponent's firing squad is just doing so much work right here. The skink cohorts are just using all their ammunition, and they definitely were able to just mow down that one group of Black Knights pretty horribly. I do get a pretty good little charge here with the Varix Reavers. Again, they do have that regeneration and augmented stats, and they do have shield as well, so they're going to be somewhat durable, and they definitely do a ton of damage. So far, it's been a pretty good pick for me. I mean, I did lose some Black Knights, but I was able to basically clean up this entire flank. You can see that these skink cohorts right here, there's 2 groups of them. And yeah, they're for the most part full health, but I'm going to be able to munch them pretty easily with the Varix Reavers. Having used an Invocation of Nehek on this big blob is definitely going to make them quite a bit more sustainable. In the meantime, the Red Duke is kind of landing in the front line, just trying to work on these Bastiladons. I obviously didn't want to, go fight Krokar. He's an absolute monster. And Krokar was able to fend off my Black Knights over here with the help of these chameleon skinks, and they did quite a bit of damage. You can see these guys are pretty much offline, but I can pull them back in and hopefully, engage here in a moment. So, the Bastiladons here are charging forth, and you can see Krokar does use Hand of the Gods. Let's see, and it does a little bit of damage. I think it got caught on that Bastiladon just a little bit. But Krokar is going to be coming in, and this is very well played by my opponent. Anytime you can isolate the Red Duke or pretty much anything else with Krokar, it's going to be a good situation. So I do pop an Invocation of Nehek just on myself, and the reason I didn't overcast it is because I didn't want to take damage from the overcast, but I do have my Terrorgeist relatively close by, so I bring that in, and the Banshee is also nearby, so I can bring those in for support. So I do pop the Elsif, which is going to put his melee defense to 0, and you can see Krokar is just getting body slammed by the Red Duke right now. So definitely a good situation for me. Now it's turned into a 2v1, and he doesn't really have too much Overwatch support. And I do summon some zombies back here to kind of mess with the AI a little bit, and you can see Krokar just getting WWE slammed by the big zombie dragon. And you guys see that? The Red Duke disappeared for a moment. But anyways, the Red Duke is going to be kind of fighting the Krokar, and Krokar is relatively low. He does have that debuff on his speed, so I'm going to get probably a few more attacks. So a very, very good trade for me. And for the first time in the game, you can see the bounce power does shift in my favor just a little bit. Not enough to be game breaking or anything, but definitely pretty powerful. In the meantime, the Black Knights have just been running shop on the skink, so I get a pretty good little charge on these guys. I have them sandwiched with zombies and Crypt Ghouls and other things like this. But the one thing I've been having, look, that guy just flew right into the camera. The one thing I've been having a ton of trouble in dealing with is his 4 chameleons. Even when I send Cav, you can see my Black Knights. Let's go ahead and take a look at their speed. So they have 78. When they get poisoned, it'll go down to the mid 50s. So they're just a little bit faster than these guys. And I mean, at the very least, I am wasting a bit of their ammunition. You can see they're all relatively low in that front. But he has his battle line back here. So every time I try and chase Krokar or any other pertinent targets, he can just kite me into the Shadow Realm, and I can't really catch those guys. The Black Knights over here, I'm just trying to use the screen and just occupy these guys for as long as I can. And honestly, they're pretty much a dirt cheap investment, so I don't mind doing this. But my opponent, very well played over here. He's able to use the Skink Priest right here, as well as Krokar to intercept these guys. And I do have the Banshee and the Red Duke in hot pursuit, just trying to work them down. I do also summon some, I think those are skeletons or zombies. Yeah, skeleton warriors. So I summon those. And this is exactly what you want to do against skink spam. You want to use skeletons and other units just to waste their ammunition, because when they run out of ammo, they're not going to fare very well against vampire counts like mainline troops. So the Black Knights are just kind of chasing. Their AI is getting caught up a little bit. I had quite a few units get their orders dropped, like these Black Knights right here. I had them on attack orders to the chameleons, and unfortunately they just kind of stopped moving. So hopefully I'll be able to get those guys moving again. I don't know, it happens quite a bit, so it is what it is. Over here on the main side, you can see the zombies and other troops are going to be kind of collapsing on these Saurus Warriors, so just through pure attrition, the Graveguard have done pretty well. 38 kills isn't bad. These zombies even have 17 against them, but a very, very good Wind Blast coming in from my opponent, just able to wreck my Graveguard. And when you overcast that, it does huge armor piercing. It is going to hit a couple of his own units, so a little bit of give and take, but honestly, his troops here are pretty much compromised anyway, so not a bad decision. And you can see his little dude here just cackling and flying overhead. The Bastillodons are, giving him a really good presence, and you can see my Sternsmen and other troops have just been wrecked, and I'm pretty sure he got a Wind Blast there and just devastated those guys. But he does actually fly over his Skink Priest right here, because essentially, in this moment, I was pressuring his backline really hard. I have the Varix Reavers and all these guys chasing, so his micro was very, from what I could perceive, I obviously can never know what's going through his head. But he was pulling back these guys and really focusing on these, and he started to fly his Skink Chief over, his caster, probably to help out in the back line and just get it back there with Krokar, but I'm able to catch it in transit. So the Duke and this Terrorgeist are able to capture and take down the Skink Chief. And you can see a couple attacks from these anti-large, like heavy-hitting units. He's able to send this guy, terrified and running off the battlefield. So this was a huge catch for me in this game. That Wind Blast is dirt cheap, and he probably still has a decent reserve of Winds of Magic, so being able to get that off the battlefield right now is going to be really, really big. So I basically just send the Terrorgeist. You can see a little bit of air traffic control jamming up there, but I'm going to be able to get him off the battlefield most likely. I get that nice little acceleration and charge. And the Red Duke's able to get a breath attack on this Feral Bastillodon, and I think there's an indication of Nehet going down on my 46 Graveguard, who I think have gotten a couple chevrons in this battle. Those guys are really performing. So just a very pitched fight. You can see Gary over here still fighting tooth and nail, fighting against some of these Crypt Ghouls, which is definitely a very good engagement with the 140 armor. But the Red Duke's going to be coming in. You can see he's just going to be landing on top of these guys and doing some huge work. So very even battle so far. However, the bounce power, again, for the first time, starting to shift in my favor quite a bit. In the back line, I'm still able to kind of occupy all these chameleons and really buy time for the Red Duke to finish off his frontline troops. And my Terrorgeist and Red Duke, and I still have that Banshee, all of whom are pretty much in full health. Krokar is pretty healthy though, so I was a little bit concerned that Krokar would be able to heal with Cold Bloods, but now that, this little Skink Chief is gone and he doesn't have that caster support, I definitely was feeling a little bit more confident. So the Varix Reavers are still just riding, but I'm telling you, it's so hard to catch these little weasels. I mean, they just run around the battlefield just trolling and laughing at you, and it's so annoying fighting against like 3 or 4 of these guys. But, the Black Knights were really good. I was able to have a huge initial shock damage on that part of his flank and collapse those Skink cohorts. Then I was able to pressure these guys and at least do some damage. I think I was able to get like one or two groups off the battlefield. You can see these ones are pretty low, so there was some success there with those guys. But they're completely crumbled. Krokar is relatively free, and right now I'm just going to be pulling this Banshee back to try and help out in the main fight. In the meantime, the Red Duke is just hunting Gary, but Gary's able to run back to some of his buddies right here, so the Chameleons are going to provide Overwatch, and I do not want to start playing that game. Basically, I want to kill whatever I can without having to fight the Skinks, and ideally, they're on auto fire right now, so they're just going to be wasting all their ammunition on this ethereal unit, and, she's going to get a huge, debuff to the damage they're taking. Well, I think, let's see what it is. Do they change the actual physical resist? I think it's I'm actually going to pause and check for just a moment, guys. I think it's, 75%. So 75% of this damage is being mitigated with those Chameleons, which is great, which means, they're going to run out of ammo, and then they're actually going to have to fight the Red Duke like their regular Skink buddies do, and that's not going to be good for them. So a lot of the Saurus Warriors here are actually in okay shape. By this stage of the game, I do get another zombie summon, and I definitely do have the terror advantage here. So you can see this Feral Bastillodon is going to get broken by the heavy AP, but Krokar is coming back in. And I still think I have enough stopping power. The Graveguard are only at 40 models, so they're actually getting a little bit low. A very close game, despite the fact that the bounce power is still in my favor. But I think the one advantage I had is that all of his harass units, which his army was very heavily focused around, are almost out of ammunition. So obviously they're not going to make a huge difference in a melee fight. But he does get a very good Hand of the Gods on the Red Duke there. He's able to posture and get a great shot, so very well played to him. And in the meantime, I'm just trying to screen him out with my Terrorgeist and get the Red Duke back up in the air and get away from this blob. I figured I just need to take out Krokar, but he still has a little bit of ammo on these Chameleons, so I'm not able to just quite catch him like I want to. I'm just kind of waddling and getting slowed, and Krokar's going to turn around and fight, and he has 4.3k HP. It looks like the Red Duke has 3.7, so he still has more raw HP, but I do have a lot of stopping power here. And I kept trying to click the Red Duke to attack Krokbar, but for some reason he wasn't it took him forever to turn around. But regardless, he finally gets up in the air and he's able to get a charge, and Krokar does get the Elsif, so he's slowed, and he's also a little bit surrounded. So even if Krokar wanted to try and run away here, you can see he's kind of blocked by some of his own Skinks, and the Terrorgeist has this position right here. So if you see, this angle's kind of blocked. The Red Duke has a pretty big hitbox as well, so it's going to be hard for Krokar to escape here. And also the Banshee on the other side is kind of tripping him up, so it's down and on this angle, and I think my opponent was trying to path out this way and get away, but unfortunately, for him, he wasn't able to. And you can see Krokar is just taking a massive beating from these 3 Vampiric Beasts, and this is going to be, what I really need. He's out of Cold Blood, so any damage that I do to him is pretty much permanent. And Elsif put his melee defense to 0, so I was able to get a couple, 1,000 HP damage there. Unfortunately, my Terrorgeist is very low, and he still does have a couple groups of skirmishers here in the back just shooting at the Red Duke and just trolling me. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a little bit, I don't know if he's going to have enough stopping power to take out the Red Duke, who's very, very healthy. Krokar is pretty strong. Could probably take the Red Duke down to like 30 or 40%, but still, I don't think it would be enough, especially with the support of a Banshee. So right now, it's basically just a couple zombies and, well, not even zombies, but Graveguard fighting down here, and the Red Duke and company are just hunting Krokar, who's just kind of hiding in circles. Definitely some pretty good micro there. But we're just trying to do our best to take him down here. And let's see, he's got about 1,500 HP. And Red Duke's pretty much full health. So the Banshee fighting here is fine. Even if she's surrounded, she's pretty much going to terror out all these troops, which is going to be really nice. And his balance of power and his army, value at this point is very low. So like one terror route could chain like all these troops off. And you can see Krokar gets hit a couple more times. He does pop the Sacred Spawning of Zodal to give him some durability, but still, with the Red Duke and the Banshee there, it looks like the Banshee did just get a prison shank on him. So he's pretty much just going to waver and probably route off the battlefield. At this point, a lot of his troops are going to start getting terrified. You can see the Skinks are terrified, and that's just going to be kind of a very cataclysmic chain reaction here. The Red Duke's, pretty much in perfect health, and these are mostly chaff units. There's a Feral Bastillodon here, which have pretty poor leadership, and, Saurus Warriors who are very low, and a couple Skinks, but they can't really do much since they were just the, the Chameleons, but I think they have like 20 melee attack or something. So very well played to my opponent. It was definitely a very close game, quite a bit of fun. And that was actually against, I didn't want to spoil it for you guys, but that was against the mighty Ninjahund. So we actually, I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning because I'm on that Poland time zone, and I couldn't like get back to sleep. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to get on and play. So I log on, and he was actually, I think, streaming at the time. So we were able to have a cool showdown. But as far as the build goes, yeah, the zombies did pretty good. I mean, obviously their kills aren't reflective of their performance, but they screened, they mucked up the Saurus Warriors. You could see the kills on his Saurus Warriors as reflective of that. And the Skeletons did their job. The Graveguard performed pretty well, but he was able to really, do well with the Wind Blast. So the Wind Blast just massacred my infantry corps. Granted, he did have way more infantry, 3 Saurus Warriors, and like all of these Skink cohorts. I mean, a couple of them, I would say like 3 or 4 of them got wiped out pretty quick initially from the Black Knight charge. You can see there's 199 kills on these Varix Reavers. Not too many on the other ones, but man, look how well those Crypt Ghouls perform. So I think, like, if I were able to, go back and, like, arguably a lot of the more competitive Vampire Counts builds against the Lizard people is using double Terrorgeist, but I've noticed that a lot of Lizardmen players are kind of evolving. Either they're just going to use a bunch of Temple Guard and stand on top of those against 2 Terrorgeists, which is tough. But another thing they'll do is use a ton of Skinks. So when you go to, obviously chase Krokar, going after any of those high-value armored targets with your double Terrorgeist and the Red Duke, you're just going to be getting peppered by like 3 or 4 groups of Chameleons, and it's incredibly hard to catch them, even with like, Black Knights and things like that. Direwolves can do okay, but I feel like, I don't know, I wanted to try the Black Knights this game, and I felt like it worked pretty well. But again, I'd like to hear your guys' feedback on that. Aside from that, the build works, but maybe incorporating more Crypt Ghouls. Like, after seeing how well they performed, and I don't know how well they would do against Saurus Warriors, that's my one concern. So if someone went with, a more Saurus heavy army, I feel like they might get pounded a little bit, but still, I'm kind of interested in trying these guys out. They seem to perform pretty well. And for Ninjahund's army, I like Krokar. Skink Priest, I mean, obviously was an MVP. He did a really good job with the Wind Blast. You can see 236 kills on that guy. Saurus Warriors are solid. I mean, it's a very missile-heavy army. It was pretty cool, like seeing the Feral Bastillodons in play and seeing those guys in the front line really give him a good anchor. And I had to invest quite a bit of time on the Red Duke fighting the Feral Bastillodons rather than, going after other targets I really wanted to hunt down. Otherwise, they would have just, I didn't really have that kind of heavy punching power in my front line to drag down this much armor. But, it was a very skirmish-heavy army using the 4 Skinks. It was definitely very micro-intensive to have to, like, chase those guys and run and then re-engage them. So it was definitely a pretty stressful, build to play against. Personally, I'm still... I like to use like a couple groups of Temple Guard and use a sort of Scar Veteran and kind of play that anti-large game and then just use Lord of Heavens to augment the strength of those guys. But again, this is a viable build as well. It was a very, very close game. It could have gone either way based on a few minor tweaks in the game. So again, very well played to my opponent Ninjahund. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Vampire Counts versus Lizard People showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.